Police may have caught Jennifer Kesse's abductor on camera, but no one has ever been able to see their face. Hi, hello, I'm Paula Taz, and welcome to Crime Thread, where every case has a what? A thread worth following. Even though we have concrete evidence of her disappearance, it has left us with more questions than answers, and straight to a frustrating dead end. I would love to know what your theories are in the comment section below. So, let's grab a drink. I'm drinking Wild Cherry Pepsi Zero. Again, don't come for me. We're all gonna die of something. So, cheers. And let's settle in and follow the thread together. On Tuesday, January 24th, 2006, Rob Allen awaited his usual good morning text or call from Jennifer, but she never got in touch with him, which was really weird since she always called or texted every morning. He tried to get a hold of her, but there was no answer. Rob Allen was Jennifer's long-distance boyfriend. He lived in Fort Lauderdale and she lived in Orlando, Florida. They had just gotten back from a trip to St. Croix about 2 days ago. So he figured she was busy that day since it was a very important day for Jennifer at work. See, she had this meeting, this really important meeting, and she just couldn't miss it. Like, there was no way she could miss it. Jennifer had talked about a promotion she was getting at Westgate Resorts, which is a timeshare company. She was a finance manager there. Jennifer worked so hard to get to where she was. At around 11 a.m., Jennifer's parents received a phone call. Hey, are you Drew and Joyce Kesse? Yes, can we help you? This is Jennifer's boss. You're listed as her emergency contact, and she hasn't shown up to work today, so we're just wondering if everything's okay. Jennifer's parents knew this was strange behavior for Jennifer. She did not just miss work without notice. Especially with that promotion coming up, she also had a really good reputation to uphold. See, she loved her job. It was her first position out of college. She interned there while finishing her finance degree at the University of Central Florida. They thought she was a hard enough worker that they hired her on, and she earned multiple promotions that first year. It afforded her the ability to move out and buy herself a condo at the age of 24. Her condo was right next to the Mall of Millennia. Her parents knew this is not like her to just not show up. So they texted her nonstop, asking where she was. Please answer the phone. Where are you? We need to know where you are. I need to know you're okay. We need to hear from you. I want to imagine that all types of thoughts ran through their head. Maybe she was in an accident. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she was sick somewhere. Or maybe it was more innocent than that. Maybe she just had her phone turned off or it was broken. Maybe she just needed a mental day. But with no answered phone calls, their fears just grew worse and worse. They didn't know what to do, so they called the management office at her apartment complex. Maybe they knew if something fishy was happening. The management office said they couldn't really go into the condo, but could swing by to make sure that there was nothing amiss. But by the looks of things, they weren't. I mean, the door wasn't wide open. There wasn't blood or clothes thrown out in the front door. The management office did say that the black Chevy Malibu that belonged to Jennifer was gone. So it seemed like she just wasn't home. Jennifer's mom, dad, and brother did not live in the area. So on the 2-hour drive down, they were calling everybody, the hospital, anyone they can think of, to see if any Jane Does were, found. Maybe she was in an accident and they just didn't register yet, but there was no sign of Jennifer. They finally made it to the condo and went inside. I'm not really sure if the condo management let them in because of the situation that they were in or if they had a spare key, but they were able to go in. What they found inside just left them with more questions than answers. There was no blood splatter everywhere, no broken vases, there was no mess of a struggle. There was nothing amiss, typical Jen. Hurriedly leaving for work, makeup out on the counter, hair dryer, what she wore to bed the night before on the bathroom floor, bed was not made, and a couple of outfits just thrown on the bed. Joy said on the Nancy Grace show. It looked like just a girl getting ready for work. The things that were missing were her car keys, her purse, and her cell phone, which were all very normal for someone going to work. But she didn't make it to work. This made Joyce and Drew very nervous. She's not home, she's not at work, her car is missing, and the calls are going straight to voicemail. They did talk to her boyfriend, Rob Allen, and he told them that she had not answered her phone since the very morning, which was very weird because she's a very routine type of person, and this just didn't follow her routine. Rob did mention that the night before they had a tense conversation. I don't want to call it an argument because it really wasn't that. It wasn't like they were going to break up or that the fight just got out of control, but they had just gotten back from vacation and they were a long distance relationship. I feel like reality had set in for both of them, and maybe a little more for Jennifer. Maybe she was being a little needy. Maybe she just wanted some validation that they really were going to stick it out together for the long haul. But that was the last time Rob spoke to Jennifer, and that was at 10 p.m. the night before. By the evening, Drew, Joyce, and her brother Logan had done all the searching they could. So they called the police to file a missing person report. The police came to the condo, and they basically said she probably had a fight with her boyfriend. She's coming right back. I want to say a big round of applause to the law enforcement for this one. They didn't treat this case with any sense of urgency or importance. The family became frustrated by this. I mean, I would be too. Because police already made their mind up on what happened without there being an investigation done. And 2 days later, police changed their mind. Because 2 days later, an abandoned black Malibu was found. Interestingly, the car was not found on any back road. It wasn't found in an alley or a forest or anything like that. It was found in another apartment complex about 1.2 miles away from her apartment complex. There was no sign of Jennifer or her missing things. The car also did not look like there had been any crime committed. It looked like it had been cleaned, according to the police. The police did ask Rob to take a look inside to see if anything was amiss. And he did say that the driver's seat was pulled back more than it should have. You know, like when you're trying to adjust the driving length for your feet to touch the gas pedals and stuff. Yeah, that. He said that it was in a different position. Good news though, there was a surveillance camera in the parking lot of this complex, and it was recording. You know how some places just have it for looks and it's not really recording, or it's a fake camera, or it's like, oh, sorry, the video got deleted because it happened 24 hours ago. Thank goodness that wasn't the case. The day that Jennifer went missing at 12 p.m., the video shows that the Chevy Malibu pulled into a parking spot that it was found in. There was only one person in the car, and that person got out of the driver's side and walked away like nothing had happened. There are 2 clips. Both are very crappy. Like grainy, crappy. I think my iPhone can film way better videos than this camera did. The first was captured far away, and it looked like a white blob just passed through. It almost looks like a ghost hunting video. Like you could see the white shadow just passing through. And in the second clip, you can see the side profile of a person. It's a lot closer, but they were walking in front of a gate, like those pull gates from hotels. The video skips a bit and we can't see the person's face. They couldn't tell if this was a man or a woman, but what they could tell is that this person was about 5'3" to 5'5". Some say the person was dressed as a painter or a blue-collar worker. I heard out there that it was a uniform of a security guard. I mean, I don't know, but what do you guys think? There was over 14,000 tips that came in to the authorities. There was a scent dog that got sent out to help track her scent from her car, and it sadly took them back to her condo. The police finally did some actual manual looking, but there was no body found. So the police focused on when her attacker struck. They believe her attacker struck from when she left her front door on her way to her car. They couldn't be sure that the perpetrator was not in her home before that. The police never processed her apartment as a crime scene, and they even doubled down and said that the scene was too contaminated since the family was going in and out of it for the past 2 days. But the family says that the police didn't take this case seriously until 2 days later. So they went in and out trying to piece things together. They used her apartment as a sort of a headquarters. So let's dig into some theories, mostly because we all at this point know that she was abducted. One theory was that it was a construction worker that was working at the apartment complex that she stayed at. These workers had access to the gated community. Actually, the gate would sometimes just stay up so that the construction workers could access the site easily. On multiple occasions, she was catcalled by these construction workers, and she told her family that it made her really uncomfortable. I mean, she wasn't alone in this feeling either. A woman came forward that lived there at the time and said she felt the same way. The police say they interviewed some of these construction workers, but there was like a language barrier, so they really couldn't properly interview them. Some construction workers, at least 10 of them, lived in the unoccupied apartment complexes across the street from hers. Another theory was that it was someone she knew, specifically an ex, and his name was Matt. This ex was not taking the hint that she was done with him, and friends knew that he was still really in love with her and that he wanted to get back together. The night before she disappeared, he was at a bar across the street from her apartment complex called the Blue Martini. But we can't say for sure that it was him because, well, this bar was super popular. I don't even know if he knew that she lived across the street from that. And we can't tell if he was there specifically for nefarious reasons. Police asked if he would take a polygraph test, which he agreed to, but there wasn't a poly test ever done. Police dropped him as a suspect, and his alibi was never looked into. He said that he was at work. Theory number 3 was that it was one of her coworkers/supervisors. His name was Johnny Campos. People say he was your typical workplace creep. Like, he had a wife, but that really didn't stop him from catcalling her and developing feelings for Jennifer. On many occasions, he would give her unwanted compliments, and it made her really uncomfortable. He was upset at Jennifer for taking vacation time to go see her boyfriend. He was ranting to one of his coworkers, Adam, a couple days before the disappearance. And on the day of the disappearance, Johnny got to work late saying that he got a ticket, but this has not been officially confirmed or denied by investigators. Allegedly, he was acting really panicky that whole day. And a couple days later, he made a weird comment along the lines of, Jennifer was probably eaten by alligators already. Allegedly. Police don't see him as a suspect, but internet sleuths do. I don't know. I would ask you, what do you think? The theory that is most common and favorable to investigators is that it was a construction worker that did it. In 2009, they thought they had a lead. A guy by the name of Chino was arrested for statutory rape and was a worker at the apartment complex at the time of Jennifer's disappearance. He said he did know who Jennifer was since he did work in her apartment once, but that he was not involved in her disappearance and he has no idea what happened to her. He was cleared since he took a polygraph test and he passed with flying colors. So, another dead end. In 2010, there was a new investigation team assigned to the case, but nothing was found. And in 2016, much to the dismay of Jennifer's family, she was declared dead by the state. They had assumed that since it had been 10 years, that she was already deceased. But she would have been 32 at the time. The family was so hurt, and it was like old wounds just reopened, and their frustration was set ablaze. They hired this private investigator, Mike Toretta. He went back to the very beginning, looking file by file, and searching any lead he could. The problem was that he could not see who the police ruled out. That year, the Kesse did something really drastic. They sued the city of Orlando for the case. It seems like my audio did not pick up what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that the family did not have full access to this file, which is why they did such a drastic move in the first place. And in the end, there was a settlement. The Kesses spent $18,000 for the files, which is a crazy amount of money for the family to have to pay to get access to these things, but whatever. Oh, and we find out why the police didn't want to hand over the case file so easily to the family. The case was mishandled from the very start. I mean, it took the police 2 days to take her case seriously. It took 6 months for them to start theorizing that she was abducted. And 3 years later, they started looking into the construction workers that might have been there at the time of her disappearance. I mean, by that time, the construction workers were long gone. There was no list of who got interviewed. I mean, there were so many potential suspects, but no list was provided on why certain people got cleared or what happened. Also, they claimed that there was no evidence left behind, but you can clearly see on the front hood of her car dust imprints. And I'm going to put a picture up. It almost looks like she was bent over on the hood and her fingers were dragged in some sort of a struggle. It is so eerie to look at, and her family was not aware of this photo, so they released it to the public. A woman came forward to say that they did see a car pull out of her apartment complex years ago with two people in the car. And it looked like they were fighting for control inside since the car was swerving and all. Someone else came forward to say that a person dropped a rolled up carpet in the lake nearby the condo. Oddly enough, the week that the construction workers were putting down carpet was the same week that Jennifer disappeared. Investigators had divers go out to the lake to search for her for 2 whole days, but they didn't find her. Mike's theory is that the construction workers know more than they let on, and he fully believes it was one or two of them. In 2022, Drew and Joyce got the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to pick up the case. There was a new sense of hope, but the case turned cold again until November 2025. They discovered DNA that was never tested, and the case is no longer cold. The suspect list was also greatly reduced. So who knows, maybe this missing persons case will be solved due to DNA and modern technology, just like the yogurt shop murders case was solved. This is all we know for now, but I, for one, am so hopeful that it will get solved in my lifetime. If you know anything or remember anything regarding Jennifer Kesse, I'm going to put up the contact information on the screen. Please contact the numbers. Hopefully her family can get some answers after 2 long decades. So this is the case of the disappearance of Jennifer Kesse. Like, comment, and subscribe to keep up to date with the latest episode of Crime Thread. Stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.